Hey there friends, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow here. I don't want to take up a ton of your time on a Sunday, but I do want to draw attention to some weirdness. Let me just call it that. People storming Secret Service agents in roughly the proximity of the White House with guns, little strange. And then people flying in the restricted airspace at Mar-A-Lago while Trump is there. First, guys, go check out my friends, Attorneys on Retainer. I've told you guys before, don't trust an insurance company if you do carry a firearm on your side every single day for self-protection. Trust actual attorneys. That's what you get with Attorneys on Retainer. Whenever you call, you do not get Bob from India. You get an actual attorney. And that's a big deal because whenever your future is on the line because you had to draw your self-defense firearm, it's very important you talk to the right person to keep you, hopefully, out of jail. Sign up now with my friends over at Attorneys on Retainer for optimum protection in the unlikely event you have to draw your carry firearm. Use my code FTATF. Again, FTATF is my code, and you will receive $50 off of your individual sign-up fee or $25 off of your family plan sign-up fee. Attorneys on Retainer, check them out. Headline, gunman shot by Secret Service near White House identified as an Indiana man who was on local cops' radar. Yeah, how many times have we heard that before? A gunman shot near the White House after an armed confrontation with Secret Service agents has been identified as an Indiana man who was already on local cops' radar. The man was armed with a knife and a gun when he was confronted by agents just after midnight on Sunday, 1 block from the West Wing. According to reports, the man was from North Manchester, Indiana, about 100 miles north of Indianapolis, and he was, quote, suicidal when he drove to the Washington, D.C. area. This info came from intelligence given by Indiana cops. Authorities are saying that they believe he wanted to commit suicide by cop. Wow, what a lot of trouble to go through driving from Indiana to Washington, D.C., just because you want to be ended by law enforcement. I suspect there would have been some eager law enforcement willing to do the favor several hundred miles west of D.C. That's very peculiar that this man felt the need to go there, and that's the story they're sticking with. Just seems really odd. There seems to be way more to this story than meets the eye. He was shot close to the Eisenhower Executive Office building after agents investigating an alert confronted him. Now, to be fair, Trump was not in D.C. this weekend whenever this took place. Trump's been down in Mar-A-Lago since, I believe, Friday. Doesn't change the fact that none of this seems to add up. Very, very weird. Why would somebody drive from Indiana to D.C. just because they wanted to end their own life? Seems like a whole lot of trouble. Maybe he wanted to see the scenery. I can't imagine how scenic it is between Indiana and D.C. No offense to you guys who live over there. I'm not saying there's nothing to look at, but not sure that would be the last thing that I want to see before I die is the interstate between Indiana and D.C. I'm not buying the story. This guy was gunned down as he was approaching the White House by Secret Service. And I have to go back to, okay, wait a minute. Help me understand this. Indiana law enforcement, who presumably knew that he was suicidal, had contacted D.C. people, letting them know he's on the way. That's really weird. So he notified people in Indiana, unless he wrote a note or something. I guess there's other ways that this could have been discovered. But let people know he was going there and that he was suicidal. So be on the lookout for this guy so you can drop him before he does anything. Make it make sense to me because it's not. This comes on the heels of, kind of, in my opinion, a little troubling. Makes you wonder if they're testing waters and if they're not trying to get you used to something, like used to odd occurrences happening, and then all of a sudden something else happens. Because a lot of small airplanes have been getting intercepted entering that Mar-A-Lago airspace. In fact, today, NORAD F-16 intercepts plane breaching no-fly zone near Mar-A-Lago. Remember, Trump is at Mar-A-Lago. A NORAD F-16 fighter aircraft responded to a civilian aircraft violating the temporary no-fly zone near Mar-A-Lago Sunday evening. Obviously, it's a temporary no-fly zone because Trump is there currently. If Trump was gone, well, then you could fly your aircraft there. The civilian aircraft entered the temporary flight-restricted area at 8:50 a.m. this morning and was escorted out of the area by NORAD aircraft, according to the U.S. Air Force. The commander of NORAD reminds pilots that the procedures are not optional, and the excessive number of recent TFR violations indicate many civil aviators are not reading the notice to airmen or NOTAMs before each flight as required by the FAA. So clearly they're not looking at the rules or not following the rules. And again, is that on purpose? Is that by accident? Is this just an omission of paying attention to what you're supposed to do? I don't know. But I know that it's happened a lot. This follows on the heels of a report on March 1st that talks about 3 civilian aircraft violating this same temporary flight restriction area. And I don't want to hear any of the stupid little comments about, oh, you know, Trump and Elon cut the FAA. You know that's not true, right? You know, if you repeat that, you're repeating stupid far left lies, because that has been debunked a gazillion times. It's just a familiar talking point by the wackos on the far left that, again, has been debunked and is certainly not true. So the skies are no less safe today based on the current administration versus the previous administration. So let's get past that. I have to wonder, is this a normal thing? Did we see this a lot? I mean, I know that probably in the South, you probably had a good bit of air travel, but up there where Biden is from in the Delaware area, I would imagine between that New York and DC area, there's still a lot of air travel up there. So I don't imagine there's much more down south. Again, I could be wrong, but how come we never heard of people getting into, or pilots wandering off into these restricted air zones before? I'm just curious why all of a sudden we're seeing a spike in that. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, you guys know that. But at the same time, I recognize things. I recognize trends. And when something starts to happen over and over and over again, something sparked that. Either it's a conscious effort or some kind of a failure in security, communication, or something that exposes a gap that allows things to slip through. These things don't just happen. Again, it could be a conscious effort. I don't know. Is it an effort by wackos who, I mean, let's be really honest here. There's a lot of people that would like Donald Trump not to exist anymore. And I'm being very careful with my wording here. We know that. That is not a conspiracy. That is not a theory. That is an absolute fact. If you took a poll out, especially on the wackos on the far left, how many people would be happy if something happened to Donald Trump? You would see a massive show of hands. So I know that desire exists. And I know that, and we've seen it, obviously, with the stuff that happened with Thomas Crooks and Butler and whoever the feds were that are tied to him that helped that happen. I'm sorry. I'm going to be really honest with you and tell you that I know Matthew Thomas Crooks did not design this entire plot by himself. Same with the nutbag down in Mar-A-Lago, or not in Mar-A-Lago, but in Florida, that was hiding in the bushes to try to take out Trump. I don't believe either one of those guys acted alone. And I don't believe any of this stuff out there that you see that shows these lone wolves out there doing this crazy stuff all by themselves. No, I poked enough holes in these stupid little schemes of theirs and these stupid little stories last summer to where I don't believe this either. I think something is going on. Again, it's a purposeful failure of communication and security to allow these holes to expose themselves within security, or it's a purposeful effort to engage and cross over into those areas. And again, the guy that drove from Indiana to Washington, surely he knew the president wasn't there. So it makes you wonder, first of all, why drive from Indiana to DC to do that? Really stupid. But second, why there? Unless they're not telling us the rest of the story, because you could have gotten headlines anywhere. There were plenty of places between Indianapolis and DC, and anywhere in DC for that matter, to grab headlines if that's what you were looking for. Weird stuff going on. I fear for the president's life, always have. I feel like there are a lot of people, and I'm not talking, I don't mean just voters. There are a lot of people very high up, very influential, people who wield a lot of power in this country who don't want Trump out there. And the closer he gets to all these criminals, by exposing all of the money out there that's being wasted and stolen and laundered through USAID or whatever, the closer you get, the more he digs into these other organizations like the Department of Defense, like Department of Education. It's going to expose a lot of people who have had their hands permanently affixed to the inside of the cookie jar. And those people have a lot of money and a lot of power. And that's the kind of stuff that I worry about. You start getting close to exposing people who have power, those people will use that power to keep you from exposing them further.